Hello, and welcome to a story where we descend into a world cloaked in shadow. A place where secrets fester, loyalties fracture, and the stakes couldn't be higher. Today we step into the story of Metal Gear, a game that emerged from the creative mind of Hideo Kojima in 1987, a title so groundbreaking it laid the foundation for an entire genre of stealth and storytelling. This isn't just a tale of action. It's a slow burn of espionage, betrayal, and the fragile line between hero and pawn. At its heart is Solid Snake, a lone soldier whose name would one day echo through gaming history, but who begins here as a rookie, untested and unaware of the destiny awaiting him. Imagine, if you will, a world on the brink, not of war, not yet, but of something quieter, more insidious. It's 1995, a year where the echoes of the Cold War still linger in the corridors of power, where nations watch each other through narrowed eyes, waiting for each other's next move. In this fragile balance, a shadow grows in the south of Africa, a shadow called Outer Heaven. This isn't just a military outpost carved into the wilderness. It's a fortress, a sanctuary for soldiers who have rejected flags they once saluted. Its walls rise like defiance against the world. A concrete monolith surrounded by dense jungle. Its purpose shrouded in whispers and fear. For months, intelligence agencies have tracked its rise, piecing together rumors of a weapon so devastating it could redraw borders with a single strike. And then the silence breaks. Enter Foxhound, a covert unit of elite operatives, the best of the best, tasked with handling missions too delicate or too dangerous for anyone else. Their top agent, a man known as Gray Fox, was sent to infiltrate Outer Heaven and uncover its secrets. Gray Fox was a legend even among his peers, cool-headed, precise, a ghost who could slip through any defense. But days ago, his radio went dark. His final transmission crackled through to Foxhound headquarters, a terse, enigmatic message that sent a chill through the ranks. Metal Gear. 2 words, heavy with implication but devoid of explanation. Was it a code? A warning? No one knew, and Gray Fox hadn't been heard from since. Now the task falls to someone new and unproven. His name is Solid Snake, though to most, he's just Snake, a code name that feels both sharp and understated. He's a rookie in Foxhound, fresh from training, with a lean frame and a quiet intensity in his eyes. There's no fanfare to his introduction, no grand reputation preceding him. He's a blank slate, a soldier stepping into a mission that could easily swallow him whole. Over his radio, a gruff voice cuts through the static. Big Boss, the commander of Foxhound, a towering figure whose presence commands respect. His briefing is short, almost clipped as if he's holding something back. Outer Heaven's gone rogue, he tells Snake. Gray Fox is missing. Your job is to get in, find him, and figure out what Metal Gear means. That's all you need to know for now. The night is thick as Snake prepares. A high-altitude drop, the roar of a plane fading into the distance as he leaps into the void, parachute unfurling above him like a dark bloom against the starry sky. The jungle rushes up to meet him, a tangle of vines and shadows, the air heavy with the scent of damp earth and unseen danger. His boots hit the ground with a muffled thud, and the parachute collapses behind him, swallowed by the undergrowth. He's alone now, save for the weight of his gear, a transceiver clipped to his ear, a pack of cigarettes tucked into his pocket, and little else. No heavy arsenal, no backup team. It's just Snake, the jungle, and the fortress waiting beyond the trees. Snake crouches low, his breath steadying as he scans the horizon. Outer Heaven looms in the distance, its silhouette jagged against the faint glow of floodlights. The hum of generators buzzes faintly, mingling with the chirps of unseen insects. Guard towers pierce the skyline, their beams sweeping the perimeter like restless eyes. He can make out the shapes of sentries patrolling the outer walls. Mercenaries, hardened and alert, their rifles glinting in the dim light. This is no ordinary base. This is a machine of war, alive with purpose, and Snake is an intruder in its domain. Big Boss's voice crackles through the transceiver again, a lifeline in the stillness. "Stay low, Snake," he says. His tone is firm, but distant. "They don't know you're coming. Keep it that way." Snake nods to himself, a habit from training, though no one can see him do it. He stubs out the cigarette he'd lit to calm his nerves, not because he's afraid, but because the ritual steadies him. Then, with a final glance at the stars above, he moves forward, slipping through the foliage like a whisper. The jungle parts reluctantly, branches snagging at his uniform, but he presses on, drawn toward the fortress as if by some unseen thread. As Solid Snake crosses the threshold of Outer Heaven, the jungle's embrace falls away, replaced by the cold, unyielding grip of concrete and steel. The outer gates loom above him, massive slabs of metal scarred by rust and time. Flanked by floodlights that cast harsh beams into the night, he slips past the first patrol, a pair of guards clad in drab uniforms, their boots thudding against the ground in a rhythm he quickly learns to avoid. The air inside smells different, stale, metallic, tinged with the faint tang of oil and gunpowder. This is no longer nature's domain. It's the fortress of war, a labyrinth designed to keep intruders out and keep secrets in. Snake's mission, find Gray Fox and uncover the truth about Metal Gear, feels heavier now, the weight of it settling into his bones as he takes his first cautious steps forward. The interior of Outer Heaven is a maze, a sprawling network of corridors that twist and turn without apology. Bare bulbs flicker overhead, casting long shadows that dance across the walls. Gray, featureless slabs interrupted only by the occasional locked door or security camera. The hum of machinery fills the silence, a low drone that vibrates through the floor as if the base is alive, watching him. Snake moves with purpose, but not haste, his training kicking in. Stay low, hug the walls, listen for the telltale shuffle of footsteps or the creak of a door. His transceiver buzzes faintly in his ear, Big Boss's voice cutting through now. "Check your corners, Snake." It's a lifeline, but it's not enough. Snake is alone in a way he's never been before, and the vastness of this fortress presses down on him like a physical burden. It's not long before he realizes that he can't do this alone. The fortress is too big, too hostile, and Gray Fox is buried somewhere deep within its layers. Fate, or perhaps luck, offers him a glimmer of help in the form of the captives Outer Heaven holds in its grip. Snake finds the first prisoner behind a locked cell door, a heavy steel slab with a small barred window. The man inside is Kyle Schneider, a resistance leader whose voice carries the gravel of experience and the bite of defiance. His face is weathered, etched with lines that tell of battles fought and lost, and his eyes glint with a mix of suspicion and hope as he sizes Snake up. "You're not one of them," Schneider says, his tone rough but steady. "Good. Maybe you've got a chance." Schneider's story spills out in fragments, each word laced with bitterness. He was part of a local resistance group, men and women who stood against Outer Heaven's rise when it first sank its roots in the region. They fought with whatever they had, makeshift weapons, stolen intel, but the mercenaries crushed them, scattering the survivors and locking the stubborn ones away. Schneider's no fool. He knows Outer Heaven isn't just a base. It's a nation. A nation of soldiers built by someone who thinks war is the only truth left. They've got plans, big ones, and Metal Gear is at the heart of it. Schneider doesn't know what Metal Gear is exactly, only that it's dangerous, and that the guards talk about it in hushed, wary tones. Before Snake moves on, Schneider offers a parting gift, directions to a stash of gear nearby. A silenced pistol, some plastic explosives. "You'll need them," Schneider says, "and watch your back. This place eats people alive." Further in, Snake encounters another voice, a woman's, sharp and clear, cutting through the static of his radio. Her name is Diane, another resistance fighter, though she's still locked in a cell somewhere Snake hasn't reached. She's quick-witted, her words precise as she introduces herself. "I heard you talking to Schneider," she says, a faint smirk in her tone. "You're either brave or stupid, sneaking in here alone. Lucky for you, I'm on your side." Diane is a lifeline in a way Schneider can't be. Her radio connection lets her guide Snake in real time, pointing out guard patterns or hidden passages she's pieced together from overheard chatter. She's got a cool confidence, a steadiness that Snake latches onto, though she's not above teasing him when he stumbles. "Don't trip over your own feet, rookie," she'll say, and he can almost hear her grin. Then there's Steve, Diane's boyfriend, who chimes in sporadically over the same frequency. He's less reliable, his voice tinged with nervous energy as he offers half-baked tips or contradicts Diane mid-sentence. No, it's left at the next hall. Wait, maybe it's right." Steve's heart is in the right place, but he's clearly out of his depth, a civilian caught up in something bigger than himself. Together, this trio, Schneider's gruff wisdom, Diane's sharp guidance, and Steve's fumbling support, forms the beginning of Snake's network, fragile threads of trust in a place designed to break it. As Snake presses deeper, armed now with a pistol and a few explosives, the fortress seems to tighten around him. The corridors grow narrower, the air thicker, the distant clatter of boots more frequent. He ducks into a vent at Diane's urging, the metal cold against his palms as he crawls through, the sound of his own breathing loud in the confined space. Above him, guards pass by, oblivious, their voices muffled but sharp with tension. "Heard they lost another patrol outside," one mutters. "The boss ain't happy." Snake freezes, listening, then moves on when the coast clears. Outer heaven is waking to his presence, slowly but surely, and the stakes are climbing. Snake has crossed the threshold now, no longer an outsider peering in, but a trespasser deep within outer heaven territory. The corridors stretch out before him, a tangle of cold concrete and rusted steel, lit by stuttering fluorescent lights that buzz faintly overhead. Every step echoes, a soft tap against the floor that he fights to muffle, knowing that any sound could betray him. The mission weighs on him. Find Gray Fox, unravel Metal Gear. But it's the immediate dangers that demand his focus. Outer Heaven isn't just a place, it's a gauntlet, a series of trials designed to weed out the careless and the weak. And Snake, for all his training, is about to discover just how unforgiving Outer Heaven can be. The first challenge isn't a soldier or a weapon, it's the environment itself. Snake rounds a corner and stops short, his boots skidding on the slick floor. Ahead, a stretch of tiles hums with a faint electric whine, their surfaces glinting under the light. He tosses a stray bolt from his pocket, a trick from training, and watches it spark and skitter as it hits the ground. A deadly current courses through the floor, ready to fry anyone foolish enough to cross unprepared. The air smells faintly of ozone, sharp and bitter, and Snake's mind races. He backtracks, eyes scanning the walls until he spots a control box tucked high above, its panel locked tight. A keycard, one he had scavenged from a guard's locker earlier, slots in with a satisfying click, and the hum of the floor dies away. He steps across, heart steady but quick, and feels the fortress grudgingly yield to his ingenuity. Further in, the air shifts again, thicker now, tinged with a chemical bite that stings his lungs. A room of gas, its walls slick with condensation, blocks his path. The haze swirls lazily, a pale green that clings to the edges of his vision. and he feels the first pull of dizziness before he retreats. Diane's voice crackles through his radio, steady as ever. "You'll need a mask, Snake," she says, calm but firm. "Check the storage lockers, 2 halls back." Snake doubles back, weaving past a patrol so close he can smell the sweat on their uniforms, and finds the prize, a gas mask, its rubber straps worn but intact. He slips it on, the seal pressing tight against his face, and steps into the haze. The world blurs through the mask's lenses, sounds muffled as he moves, but the gas parts around him like a curtain, and he emerges on the other side, lungs intact. These obstacles are just the beginning, a warm-up for what's to come. Outer Heaven's true guardians soon make themselves known. The bosses, elite enforcers tasked with protecting its secrets. The first is Shoot Gunner, a hulking figure who steps from the shadows of a wide storage bay. He is a wall of a man, his silhouette framed by crates stacked high, a shotgun cradled in his arms like an extension of himself. The weapon roars, a blast that splinters wood and sends pellets ricocheting off the walls. Snake dives for cover, his breath sharp in his chest, the air thick with dust and the acrid bite of gunpowder. He waits, listening as Shoot Gunner's heavy steps thud closer, and then strikes, lobbing a grenade scavenged from Snyder's stash. It arcs through the air, a dull thud before it erupts, and Shoot Gunner staggers, his growl cut short as he collapses. Snake rises, wiping sweat from his brow, the silence ringing in his ears. Next comes Machine Gun Kid, a wiry, frenetic mercenary who bursts into a narrow corridor with a chatter of bullets. His weapon, a machine gun strapped across his chest, spits fire, the muzzle flash painting the walls in staccato bursts. Snake flattens himself against a corner, the concrete cool against his back, as bullets chew through the air where he'd stood just moments before. Machine Gun Kid laughs, a high, jagged sound that bounces off the walls, but his recklessness undoes him. Snake waits for a lull, then steps out, silenced pistol steady in his grip. 2 shots, precise, quiet, catch the kid mid-cackle, and he crumples, the gun clattering to the floor. The corridor falls still, save for the faint drip of water somewhere distant, and Snake holsters his weapon, a flicker of relief cutting through the adrenaline. These early victories are hard-won, each one a lesson in survival. Snake's confidence grows, a quiet ember flickering to life. But the fortress takes notice. The patrols are growing sharper, their voices tighter over the radios they carry. Big Boss's voice cuts through his transceiver more often now, stern and insistent. "You're making progress, Snake," he says, though there's an edge to it, a tension Snake can't quite place. "Stay focused. Gray Fox is still out there. Don't get distracted." Snake nods to himself, the words settling like a stone in his gut. He adjusts his gear, the weight of the pistol and explosives a comfort now, and moves on. The corridor is stretching deeper, darker, and more alive with threat. Snake is far from the jungle's edge now, far from the open sky he dropped into what feels like a lifetime ago. The air down here is cold, heavy, carrying a damp chill that seeps into his bones. The walls bear the marks of wear, scratches, faint stains, the ghosts of battles fought before his arrival. The hum of machinery has faded to a distant thrum, replaced by a stillness that presses against his ears, broken only by the occasional drip of water or the shuffle of his own boots. Snake moves with a rhythm now, a quiet grace honed by the trials he's faced. But there's a tension in him too, a gnawing need to find Gray Fox, the man whose disappearance pulled him into this maze. The fortress has tested him, it's thrown traps and enforcers in his path, but it's yielded clues too. Diane's voice has guided him through locked doors, Schneider's warnings have kept him sharp, and every scavenged keycard or whispered rumor has pointed him here, to a high-security wing, buried in the base's depths. The corridors continue to narrow, the lights dim, and the doors grow thicker, bolted with heavy locks that speak of something valuable or dangerous held within. Snake crouches by a corner, peering past a pair of guards whose chatter drifts faintly through the stillness. "He's still in there," one mutters, jerking a thumb toward a reinforced cell. "Boss says no one talks to him." These words ignite a spark in Snake's chest, and he waits, breath held, until the guards turn away. A silenced shot fells one, a quick grapple silences the other, and soon, Snake is at the cell door, its steel cold under his fingers as he slots in the hard-won keycard. The lock clicks, the door groans, and there, inside, is Gray Fox. The man inside is a shadow of the legend Snake imagined. Gray Fox sits against the far wall, his uniform torn, his face bruised, streaked with grime. His hair, once neatly cropped, if the stories are true, is matted with sweat, and his sharp eyes flicker with a mix of exhaustion and defiance as they meet Snake's. He's leaner than Snake expected, wiry but strong, a coiled spring even in captivity. For a moment, neither speaks. Snake feels the weight of standing before a foxhound icon, a man whose name carried him through training like a myth. Gray Fox breaks the silence first, his voice low and rough, but steady. "You're the rookie, huh? Took you long enough." There's no warmth in his voice, no camaraderie, just a blunt acknowledgement, tempered by the faintest hint of respect. Snake steps closer, the cell's confines pressing in, a bare concrete box, its walls damp, streaked with rust, a single flickering bulb casting jagged shadows. "What's happened?" he asks, keeping his tone even, though curiosity burns beneath it. Gray Fox shifts, wincing as he adjusts his bruised frame, and begins to speak. His words come slow at first, deliberate, as if he's measuring how much he could give away. He had infiltrated Outer Heaven weeks ago, slipped past its defenses with the ease of a ghost, but he'd gotten too close, too deep into its heart. "They caught me," he says, a bitter edge creeping in. "But not before I saw it. Metal Gear." Snake leans in, the name hanging heavy between them, a question he doesn't need to ask. Gray Fox's eyes narrow, and he continues. "It's a weapon. A tank, but not like anything you've seen. It walks, Snake. 2 legs, armored, with a nuclear payload that can hit anywhere on the planet. Mobile, unstoppable. That's what they're building here." The revelation lands like a stone in still water, rippling through Snake's mind. He pictures it. A towering machine, metal limbs thudding against the earth, missiles gleaming in its belly. A nuclear strike from anywhere, anytime. The implications spiral outward. Wars won in hours, nations held hostage, power shifted to whoever controls Metal Gear. Gray Fox watches Snake process it, a grim understanding in his gaze. "They've got it hidden deeper in," he adds. "Building 3, underground. That's where you'll find it, and where you've got to stop it." His voice hardens, a command from a man who knows he's out of the fight. "Destroy it, Snake. Blow it to pieces before they can use it." There's more, though, something Gray Fox hesitates to say. Snake catches the flicker in his expression, the way his jaw tightens. "What else?" Snake presses, stepping closer, the damp air clinging to his skin. Gray Fox looks away for a moment, then back with piercing eyes. "The one running this place, it's someone we know. Someone from Foxhound." The words hang, sharp and unfinished, a riddle that Snake can't yet solve. Just then, Big Boss's voice flashes through his mind, stern, distant, guiding him step by step. Could it be? No. Don't answer the question yet. It's too vague, too raw to grasp. Before Snake can push further, a distant clang echoes through the corridors. Boots, voices, the fortress is stirring. Gray Fox straightens, urgency cutting through his fatigue. "Go," he says. "They'll be here soon. I'm no good to you like this. Get out and finish it." Snake hesitates, the instinct to free him warring with the reality of the moment. Gray Fox reads it in his stance and shakes his head. "Don't waste time on me. Metal Gear is what matters. Go." There's no plea in it, just cold pragmatism, and Snake knows he's right. Snake steps back, the cell door ajar, and nods. A silent promise to see this through. The alarms are blaring now, faint but growing, and Snake slips out, the weight of Gray Fox's words sinking into him like lead. A walking nuclear tank? A traitor in Foxhound? This mission is no longer just a rescue. It's a race against catastrophe that he can barely fathom. As he moves back into the shadows, the cell fading behind him, Snake feels the shift. Outer Heaven isn't just a fortress anymore. It's a ticking clock. Its secrets unraveling faster than he can keep up with. Gray Fox's voice echoes in his mind. Destroy it. Stop it. And the path ahead grows clearer, darker, and more urgent. The damp air chills his skin, the distant shouts of guards sharpen his senses, and he presses on, a lone figure against a rising storm, carrying the truth deeper into the unknown. After meeting Gray Fox, Snake's mission has a new shape, carved by the weight of what he's learned. Metal Gear, a walking nuclear nightmare, lurks somewhere deeper in the fortress. And it's no longer just about rescuing a comrade. It's about stopping a disaster that could ripple across the world. Big Boss's voice crackles through the transceiver with a rhythm that's become familiar, a tether to the world outside these walls. The commander has always been there, a gruff constant in Snake's ear, feeding him intel, nudging him forward. "Good work finding Gray Fox," Big Boss says, his tone clipped but approving. "Now keep moving. Building 2 is ahead. That's where the trail picks up." It's practical advice, the kind Snake's leaned on since the jungle drop, but lately it's started to feel off. The orders come too fast sometimes, too specific, and then shift abruptly. Snake's instinct, honed by hours of dodging patrols and traps, tug at him. Why the hesitation? Why the detours? He shakes it off, chalking it up to fatigue. But the seed is planted, a whisper of doubt that he just can't silence. And the fortress doesn't let him linger on it. Outer Heaven escalates its defenses, throwing new threats into his path as if sensing the urgency of his mission. The first threat is Hind D, a sleek, deadly helicopter that bursts into view as Snake crosses an open courtyard between buildings. The night sky above is a rare glimpse of freedom, stars winking faintly, but the roar of rotor blades shatters the calm. Floodlights snap on, pinning him in their glare, and the chopper swoops low, its silhouette a predatory shadow against the dark. Bullets rain down, kicking up dust and concrete chips that sting Snake's face as he dives behind a stack of crates. The air vibrates with the whine of its engines, a relentless hum that drowns out his own breathing. Snake scrambles, heart pounding, and spots a rocket launcher, half buried in a supply cache. Diane's tip from earlier, a lifeline he'd almost forgotten. Snake lifts it, the weight solid in his hands, and waits for the Hind to circle back. A shot streaks upward, a trail of smoke and fire, and connects, a bloom of orange against the night sky as the chopper spirals, crashing into the courtyard in a deafening crumple of metal. Snake exhales, the silence ringing, and moves on, the wreckage smoldering behind him. Next comes a tank, a lumbering beast that guards a narrow bridge between sectors. It's an older model, its armor covered in rust, but its cannon swivels with deadly intent as Snake approaches. The ground trembles under its treads, a low growl filling the air as he ducks low, the first shell exploding where he'd stood moments before. Shrapnel peppers the walls, a sharp whine in his ears as he feels the heat of it, even from cover. Big Boss's voice cuts through the chaos. "Use the launcher, Snake. Aim for the treads." And it's good advice. Precise, but there's that edge again, a pushiness that grates on him. Snake ignores the flicker of unease, focusing instead on the fight. He darts between crates, the tank's cannons tracking him, and fires once, twice, the rockets slamming into the base. The machine groans, lurching to a stop, smoke curling from its ruined frame. Snake wipes the sweat from his eyes. The bridge quiet again, save for the faint hiss of cooling metal, and Snake presses forward. Each victory hardens Snake, sharpens him, but the cost begins to creep in. Bruises on his ribs, a cut across his knuckles, the ache of muscles that had pushed too far. He's adapting, learning the rhythm of this place, but Outer Heaven fights back harder. Its patrols doubling, its traps growing more cunning, and that doubt. It's louder now, fueled by more than just Big Boss's odd cadence. Snake radios Schneider between fights, his voice low as he ducks into a shadowed alcove. "Who's running this place?" Snake asks, the question sharp. Schneider's reply is slow, deliberate. "Someone high up. Someone who knows Foxhound, knows us." The line crackles, then Diane cuts in, her tone grim. "He's right. I've heard guards talking. Orders come from someone who's walked our halls." Snake's grip tightens on the transceiver, his mind spinning. Could it be Big Boss? No, it's too soon to spin a thread like this. The pieces just don't fit right anymore, and this mission feels heavier, murkier than ever. Big Boss breaks the silence, his voice stern. "You're wasting time, Snake. Gray Fox gave you the target, Metal Gear. Focus on that." It's an order, sharp and final, but it lands wrong, like a shove instead of a guide. Snake doesn't argue. He can't. Not yet. But he files it away, the unease settling alongside the exhaustion. The fortress looms ahead, Building 3 drawing closer with every step, and the stakes climb higher. Metal Gear waits, a shadow he can't yet see, and behind it, a truth he's beginning to fear. The air hums with tension, the walls watch in silence, and Snake moves on, a lone figure in a game that's tilting against him. The heart of Outer Heaven beats louder now, a pulse that Solid Snake feels in the walls, in the floor, in the very air he breathes. He's crossed into Building 3, the deepest layer of the fortress, where the shadows grow thick, the machinery hums louder with a purpose he can't yet name. The corridors here are different, though. Wider, colder, their concrete surfaces smoother as if carved with intent rather than necessity. The lights are dimmer, casting a faint blue glow that softens the edges of everything. And the air carries a sterile chill, a faint whiff of oil and metal that clings to his clothes. Snake moves slower now, not just from caution, but from the weight of what lies ahead. Gray Fox's warnings echo in his mind. Metal Gear, a walking tank and nuclear threat, and it's pulling him forward, a thread of fate that he can't ignore. The fortress knows he's here, its alarms have quieted, but the tension lingers, a coiled spring waiting to snap. The descent is gradual but relentless. Snake navigates a series of elevators, each one creaking as it drops him lower, the cables groaning under the strain. The walls slide past, marked with cryptic numbers and faded warnings. Authorized personnel only, danger, high voltage, hints of the secrets buried below. At every stop, he pauses, listening for the clatter of boots or the hiss of a camera lens, but the silence holds, heavy and expectant. Diane's voice crackles faintly through his transceiver, her tone hushed. "You're close now," she says. "I've heard them moving something big down there, something they're scared of." Schneider cuts in, gruff as ever. "Whatever it is, it's why they built this place. End it, Snake." Their words steady him, but they can't prepare him for what's coming. The final elevator grinds to a halt, its doors sliding open with a low rumble, and Snake steps into a vast underground hangar, a cavern of steel and shadow that takes his breath away. The space is enormous, its ceiling lost in darkness, supported by thick pillars that rise like the bones of some ancient beast. Floodlights hum to life as he enters, their beams cutting through the gloom to reveal the centerpiece. Metal Gear. It stands there, a colossus of war, its form both alien and terrifyingly precise. Two towering legs, jointed and armored, hold up a hulking torso bristling with weapons, cannons, missile racks, a cockpit perched high like a watchful eye. Its surface gleams, a dull silver marred by weld lines and rivets, and it looms over Snake, silent but alive, a machine that seems to breathe with menace. The air around it hums faintly, a vibration he feels in his chest, and he can't look away. This is no ordinary tank. It's a predator, a weapon that could stalk the earth and strike without warning. Its nuclear payload a promise of annihilation. Gray Fox's words flood back, and Snake understands. This is what Outer Heaven was built to protect and to unleash. Snake realizes he's not alone. A figure stumbles from the shadows near Metal Gear's base. Dr. Petrovich Madnar, the scientist who birthed this monstrosity. He's a frail old man, older than Snake expected, his wild white hair and a face etched with exhaustion and fear. His coat is rumpled, stained with grease, and his hands tremble as he clutches a clipboard like a shield. Who are you?" he stammers, voice cracking, eyes darting between Snake and the machine. Snake steps forward, keeping his tone low and steady. "I'm here to stop this thing. Tell me everything." Madnar flinches, then sags, the fight drained out of him. His story spills out in a rush, a confession torn from guilt and desperation. "They forced me," he said, with words tumbling over each other. "Outer Heaven's leader, he took my daughter, Ellen, said he'd kill her if I didn't build it. I had no choice." Madnar's voice softens as he describes Metal Gear, a mix of pride and horror threading through his explanation. "It's a masterpiece," Madnar explained, gesturing to Metal Gear, pointing out the bipedal legs, making it agile, moving over any terrain, launching nukes from anywhere. No one is safe when it's activated. Madnar pauses, swallowing hard, and then meets Snake's gaze. "But it's fragile, too. The legs, there's a sequence. Explosives placed just right can bring it down." Snake listens, memorizing the pattern that Madnar sketches in the air. Right leg, right again, precise and unforgiving. It's a lifeline, a flaw in the beast's design, and Snake tucks it away. Madnar slumps against a crate, spent, muttering about his daughter, about forgiveness he'll never find. Snake leaves him there, a broken man dwarfed by his creation, and Snake turns back to Metal Gear. The hangar isn't done with him yet. The alarms blare, sharp and piercing, a scream that shatters the stillness. Guards must have found the bodies upstairs and traced his path. Snake's cover is blown, and Outer Heaven unleashes its final defenses. A fire trooper emerges first, a lunatic in a flame-resistant suit, his flamethrower spitting tongues of fire that lick the walls. The heat washes over Snake, searing the air as he ducks behind a pillar, the concrete blistering under the assault. He waits, sweat beading on his skin, and then rolls out, grenade in hand, a quick toss, a deafening boom, and the fire trooper staggers, engulfed in his own inferno, collapsing in a heap of charred metal and ash. The air stinks of burnt rubber, but Snake's already moving, eyes locked on the next threat. Bloody Brad, a pair of androids sleek and relentless, steps into the fray, their forms glinting under the floodlights. They're machines like Metal Gear, but smaller, faster, their arms whirring like blades and guns. Snake's pistol feels feeble against them, bullets pinging off their armor, but he adapts, luring them into a tight corner, planting explosives and diving clear. The blast shakes the hangar, metal screeching as the androids topple, circuits sparking in their ruins. Silence falls again, heavy and final. Snake stands, chest heaving, the wreckage strewn around him like a battlefield. Metal Gear looms, untouched, a silent judge, and he knows the real fight is still ahead. The underground hangar of Building 3 trembles as Solid Snake stands amidst the wreckage of Fire Trooper and Bloody Brad, their twisted remains smoldering in the dim light, the air thick with the acrid sting of burnt metal and the faint hum of electricity. Metal Gear looms before him, a silent titan, its towering legs casting long shadows across the concrete floor. The floodlights flicker overhead, painting the machine in stark contrasts of silver and black, and Snake feels its presence like a weight on his chest, a promise of destruction he's here to unmake. Dr. Madnar's words echo in his mind, the fragile sequence of explosives replaying like a mantra, right leg, right leg again. Snake's hands tighten around the explosives he has, the cool, pliable weight, a lifeline in this cavern of steel and ruin. This is it, the endgame, the moment Gray Fox demanded, the reason he's fought through Outer Heaven's depths. Snake moves with purpose, circling Metal Gear's base as the alarms wail in the distance, an endless piercing cry that tells him time is running out. The machine isn't active, not yet, but it doesn't need to be. Its sheer size is a threat to Snake, its missile racks glinting faintly under the lights. Snake ducks beneath its chassis, the air cooler in its shadow, and plants the first charge, right leg, a soft beep as it adheres to the joint. The metal groans faintly, a sound like a sleeping giant stirring, and he freezes, heart thudding, before moving to the left leg. Another charge, another beep, the sequence ticking down in his head. Guards shout somewhere above, their voices muffled by the hangar's vast size, but he blocks them out. Focus, just focus. The final explosive locks onto the right leg again, and Snake rolls clear, scrambling behind a crate as the timers blink red. He presses the detonator, and the world around him erupts. The explosions ripple through Metal Gear, a chain of fire and sound that shakes the floor beneath him. The fire blasts crack the right leg, metal buckling with a screech. The second tears into the left, joint snapping like a brittle bone. The third sends the whole structure lurching, a deafening roar as it collapses. Sparks shower the hangar, a cascade of light against the dark, and the machine topples, a slow, inevitable fall that ends in a thunderous crash. Dust billows outward, choking the air, and Snake shields his eyes, the heat of the wreckage washing over him. Metal Gear lies broken, a heap of twisted steel and shattered ambition, its nuclear heart silenced. For a moment, there's stillness, a victory carved from chaos, and Snake feels the weight lift, if only slightly. But Outer Heaven isn't finished with him. The hangar walls rumble, a low groan that builds into a shudder. Metal Gear's destruction has triggered something, a failsafe deep in the fortress's guts. A robotic voice crackles through hidden speakers, cold and mechanical. Self-destruct sequence initiated. Evacuate immediately. The countdown begins, a relentless tick echoing in the vast space. Snake's triumph curdles into urgency. He turns to run, the path to the surface a maze he's memorized through blood and instinct, when a figure steps from the shadows near the hangar's exit. The dust parts, and there he stands. Big Boss, his commander, his mentor, and his betrayer. Big Boss is a mountain of a man, broad-shouldered and weathered, his presence filling the space like the air itself bends to him. His uniform is crisp despite the chaos, a dark green that blends with the shadows, and his face, scarred, stern, framed by a graying beard, carries a hardness that Snake knows all too well. In his hand, a pistol gleams, steady and aimed, but it's his eye that cuts deepest. Cold, calculating, a flicker of something like regret, buried beneath the steel. Snake freezes, the transceiver silent now, the truth crashing into him like the wreckage behind him. "You," Snake says, voice low, raw. Big Boss doesn't flinch. "Me," Big Boss replies, his tone even, almost tired. "You've done well, Snake. Better than I expected." The confrontation unfolds in the flickering light, the countdown's rhythm a heartbeat underscoring every word. Big Boss steps closer, the pistol unwavering, and his voice takes on a weight Snake hasn't heard before. Outer heaven is mine. A nation for soldiers, men like us, cast aside by a world that doesn't need warriors anymore. Metal Gear was our edge, our purpose. Big Boss paused, eyes narrowing. I sent you in to fail. A rookie, a distraction while I tied up loose ends, but you didn't break. There's no pride in his voice, just a statement, cold and final. Snake's mind reels, every order, every detour, every clipped word over the radio. It was sabotage, a leash to keep him stumbling. The doubt that gnawed at him since Building 2 hardens into certainty, and his hands drift to his own weapon, slow and deliberate. You used me, Snake says, the words sharp against the rumble of the collapsing base. Big Boss nods, a ghost of a smile tugging at his lips. That's the game, Snake. Soldiers follow orders. You just followed them a little too well. The countdown ticks lower. 5 minutes, maybe less, and the air crackles with tension. Big Boss raises his pistol higher. This ends here. One last lesson. The fight ignites, a blur of motion in the fading light. Big Boss is fast, brutal, decades of combat etched into every move. Shots ring out, grazing Snake's arms, splintering crates as he dives for cover. The heat of the bullets stings, blood warm against his skin, but he pushes through, adrenaline drowning out the pain. Snake fires back, dodging between pillars as the hangar shakes, debris raining from the ceiling. Big Boss is relentless, a predator honed by years Snake can't match. But he's not invincible. Snake lures him, feints left, then rolls right, planting a grenade that erupts in a flash of fire and dust. Big Boss staggers, coughing, and Snake closes in, pistol raised, a final shot that catches the commander square in the chest. Big Boss stumbles, his weapon clattering to the floor, and sinks to his knees, blood staining the uniform he's wearing. His eyes meet Snake's one last time, a flicker of something, respect, maybe, or resignation, before he slumps, still. The countdown blares, 2 minutes, and Snake doesn't linger. He runs, the fortress crumbling around him, Big Boss's words searing into his mind. A nation for soldiers, and a purpose lost. The final stretch is chaos. Corridors buckling, flames licking at the walls, the air thick with smoke and heat. Snake sprints, legs burning, the exit a sliver of light ahead. Outer heaven fights to take him with it, but he's faster, stronger, propelled by everything he's endured. The truth of Big Boss's betrayal, the ruin of Metal Gear. It's a weight he carries as he bursts into the night, the fortress erupting behind him in a fireball that lights the sky. He doesn't look back, not yet, just breathes. The jungle air is sharp and alive as the echoes of his commander's fall fade into the dark. Over the radio, static crackles. No more voices, no more orders. Snake is alone again. As the credits roll, we're left with Snake walking into the distance, a solitary figure against the dawn. He stopped a global threat, uncovered a betrayal, and survived. But the cost lingers. What did Big Boss mean about soldiers needing a purpose? And what happens now? The answers to these questions come later in the series for Metal Gear. For now, Solid Snake's first mission is complete. And so our tale of Metal Gear comes to a close. From a rookie infiltrating a fortress to a hero dismantling a conspiracy, Solid Snake's journey is one of grit and discovery. I hope you've enjoyed this deep dive into the 1987 classic. If you enjoyed this story, hit the like button and subscribe for more gaming recaps. Thanks for sticking with me through this incredible story. We'll see you in the next one.